Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and every year during Thanksgiving week, do look like a turkey. Baby, pass the gravy. Do look like a turkey. You can win a dinner with me during Thanksgiving week, thanks to WBCN and strawberries. All you got to do is bring a can of food to any Strawberries Records and Tapes location. Then we'll donate it all to the Boston Food Bank. WBCN will choose 5 winners, each with a guest, to pass the gravy baby and to get down and jam with the candied yams. Oh! At Michael's Waterfront Restaurant on Atlantic Avenue, the place with after-dinner shuttle service to the Theater District. My. So come on, feed the needy and win a dinner with me, Steven Tyler. Just drop off a can of food at Strawberries today, and thank you from all of us in Aerosmith and everybody at The Rock WBCN. Ow!
Ignore that. Even though every white guy impulse in me wants to continue the singing of the song. You want to hit the start timer on there? You want to hit? You want to start podcasting, genius?
Hey, so Biff, you go to a Thanksgiving or a Christmas, I'm sorry, a holiday party. I forgot the war on Christmas we're fighting so valiantly. Biff,
I was going to say that I don't celebrate the murder and colonization of indigenous people.
Gosh bless you. You say you go to a holiday party and a 3-year-old comes over and first gives you an oatmeal cookie, then he gives you a chocolate chip cookie, and then he gives you a sugar cookie. What do you have?
I have 3 cookies.
No, I was going to say the flu. See, because 3-year-olds and the Christmas and flu. Okay, all right. You know what? Let me rough crowd. The crowd's rough when you see the dancing girls. Okay, so Thanksgiving. So Biff, at Thanksgiving, the farmer's wife is inside, making 19 courses, and here walks in the farmer with a turkey under his arm, and he says, "This is the pig I've been having sex with." And his wife turns to him and says, "That's a turkey, you idiot." And the farmer says, "I wasn't talking to you."
Talking to you. I knew where that was going. Yeah. It's sad that I knew where that was going. I'm kind of embarrassed.
Oh, you know what? It's just good that it's just the two of us today. Biff.
Just the two of us.
And we can make it if we try.
Just the two of us.
Yeah. So because, I don't want anybody just coming on into the podcast, judging me for my jokes and just giving me dirty looks. I don't need that.
Maybe if that person was like more, comically inclined, it would be okay.
Right.
Oh, hi, everybody. Just thought I'd waltz in here. I was just taping my special next door, and I thought I'd see how you guys were doing, holding up. How you guys doing over there? Boy, I'll tell you.
Doing a lot better now that you're here, Joe. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't
we
stay
were looking
long.
for somebody more comically inclined than Jacques.
I can't stay long. I got Ann Jillian waiting for me in the back there, so I gotta.
Is Ann Jillian still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she is.
We need to do one of these. We have to have a quiz, like dead or alive quiz of these obscure, 70s and 80s actors.
Well, the great MTV game show Remote Control used to have Dead or Canadian.
That's true. Yeah, I used to be so good. I used to be so good on that show. Like I would watch it, and especially the final video thing, I would just be roasting the guys, like, "You idiot, you idiot, you idiot." It's so sad.
And as we talked, the day that the contestants was so bad, they're like, "You're all leaving. Nobody wins. Goodbye." No. And they just
this is how bad my addiction to that show is. not only do I remember that show, there was a chick wearing glasses that got to the final round, and the video that she couldn't get was, the artist was Robert Cray. I know to that detail. This is how bad I am.
I thought it was Howard Jones, but maybe.
So, I mean, so Joe, after the podcast, maybe we'll watch some more Remote Control. Anyways, hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnivore Personnel. This is your good old pal, Jacques.
This is Biff. I don't know what you are to me, but this is Biff.
This is your mortal enemy, Joe.
So, yes, Thanksgiving, was just last week. Like you
in
said,
this country,
like you said, Biff, that you don't usually celebrate it. We don't really celebrate it either for the same reasons. Yeah, I'm not really celebrating the genocide of Native Americans.
Actually, it's also because I'm not a citizen of this country, so like it's just a day off for me.
You have by the way, you have a Thanksgiving too up in Canada.
It's in October.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so my country has its own my official country, Japan, has its own history of colonization and genocide, but we don't actually have a celebration for that. So
we spike the ball whenever we can. But I'm ready for Christmas, and I know you've seen it because I've made you, Biff, see the videos and the pictures of my home Christmas mashup Nightmare Before Christmas. But Joe got to see it in person. Thoughts?
How lucky of you!
It really does deserve an in-person visit. It doesn't. The pictures don't do it justice. It helps find the house at night.
It does, yes. And I was out, and I'll post more pictures, but long story short, we have one of those 12-foot skeletons. We keep it out year round. We do different things with it for the different seasons. We were going to throw out an old bar table that we had down at the pool, and we're like, wait a minute. We just got a few new skeletons for Halloween. Why don't we do something? So we have a Halloween, a Christmas skeleton party. Then there was 45-mile gust the other day, and they got blown over, which I thought was awesome because it gave me the ability to post new pictures saying no more drinking at the skeleton party. It goes right through them.
Would you say it's a dead man's party?
There you go.
Who could ask for more?
And the wife came home one day, and she's like, she saw it, she loved it, and then she's like, wait, is that a different arm? Because I went and bought like a $2 3-string guitar from this place called Savers. It's kind of like a Salvation Army, and I have one sitting in a chair playing guitar, but the way it has to hold the guitar, it can't get the other arm around it. So we have old skeleton remains from past skeleton all over the yard, and so
Is this skeleton remains like a redundant?
Yeah, thank you. And so I taped it on, and she's like, "How much time did you spend on this?" And this look, I'm speaking only to the F&H guys and Joe right now.
You're only always speaking to
That's
the
the
F&H
only
guys.
people.
and Joe.
Actually, it's funny because there was a couple people just recently who I was very surprised. A really good friend of mine, Brandon, really good friend. When he was like, "Yeah, I was listening to this," I was like, "Wow, that was great." But in F&H, there was a first-star jersey for a while. Taylor always did a great first-star jersey presentation. And, of course, All-Star Tommy won it as usual. He comes in the next weekend, and this was the first time he sewed a patch on it. And it became a thing. When you won it, you sewed a patch. But the first time Tommy did it, it was on it so perfectly. And his wife comes home and sees him methodically sewing it. And she's like, "There are lights in this house that have been burnt out for 6 months, but you have the time to sew this patch on."
No, he made the time.
He made the time.
It is one of the great stories.
So,
it is.
So the wife comes home, and she was like, "Oh my God." And then a couple days later, I kept, look, more than one person has called me Clark Griswold in the last couple weeks, and all I can say is guilty as charged. But as far as Thanksgiving goes, I did go to my mom's for the first time in many years, just for dessert. It was fine. It was nice seeing people. So
you're saying your mom did not make the tofurkey?
No, she actually offered. I have a niece who's also a vegan. but we just went over, and it was lovely. It was great. It was about an hour or so. But I sent you guys videos, and I posted online.
Yeah.
My family, I come from a long line of gamblers, and I don't say that jokingly. My grandfather, and I won't get into it, but as a kid, these Thanksgiving parties and these Christmas parties we would have, and just regular get-togethers. My mom and her 5 siblings and their significant other, a couple neighbor, a friend. There'd be 12, 15 adults playing card games, and they would always start off like this thing called Penny Ante type thing. These pots would grow to several $100s. There was never not a fight. Nobody, no adult was sober by midnight, and the games usually went to 2 or 3 a.m. But luckily, up until the mid 80s, all but one of my uncles was at least a pack-a-day person. So it was. So I'm upstairs, talking to my cousin, the Saturday Night Live guy. Yeah, I'm name dropping. I'm so proud. He's the greatest, funniest, and his partner. And all of a sudden, my mom's like, handing me $3. She goes, Grayson won't do it. Give him the money. I'm like, money for what? She goes, we're doing the games downstairs. Like I was supposed to know that she was indoctrinating my son into gambling, who wasn't. And then he went downstairs.
Grooming. She's grooming.
And then he, they did they played this game. It was fun, but it was the aunts and uncles, and there's no letting you win. And, he ended up winning like a $60, pot. And he was so excited. I'm like, okay, well, you're supposed to give grandma her $3 back for spot you. And it's usually like a $10, little Vic, little something for the effort.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that sounds fair. And I'm like, oh my God. I did not mean to pass this knowledge on to the next generation. Because the things that I never gamble. But the things I know about how the world works growing up running football carts with my uncle all through the 70s, who, the one uncle who didn't smoke was the one who he ran the football carts for somebody with no neck and a bent nose. And he was the guy who showed up and collected.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
Yeah. Well,
and he had a pimp car. It was this big tank Buick. My uncle was a big guy. Yeah. And I that's a story for the other day. But no, my son was gambling.
Well, and I touched on this a little bit in our texting, but so one of the things that I grew up with gambling wise is that many Japanese love mahjong, which everybody thinks is that thing of matching the tiles on the the actual mahjong game is kind of like a gin rummy type of a game, but there's points involved and there's rounds involved and there's winning involved, but it is a gambling thing. There's a Chinese version that is the original version that they have their own rules, and there's a Japanese variant. But my dad used that as a kind of a team building thing, because and when I say that, it was really legitimately what that was, where my dad opened a hotel in Toronto and brought over a bunch of Japanese nationals into Toronto, where there wasn't, they were, for many of them, first time in a foreign country, period. And definitely didn't speak much English, and it was hard for them, right? They were essentially, immigrants in a, different country kind of a thing. And so my dad literally hosted, we had somebody over pretty much every night, but weekends were nuts. And we typically had like, on big nights, we had like a 7 or 8 table. So, like 32 people playing mahjong at the same time. And when I was younger, it was my job to make sure that everybody had their drinks.
Yep.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah.
7 and 7.
But then as
Keep
I
them
got
coming.
older, hey, you should learn this game. And then essentially, if we were, because this game was specifically a game you had to play in 4s. If we were ever short a table, I said, hey, we need a 4th on this table. And like my older brother, my brothers and I were essentially be plucked in to play, to fill in these tables. So that became our thing. So we were indoctrinated that way.
And how
Thank you very much.
And if we've talked about this in the past, Biff, you and one of your other brothers were very good at math very quickly.
Yes.
And your dad kind of, the fix was in, so to speak. And
well, it's well, no, it's not so much that. It's like the deal was, so the way it worked was that if I had to fill in a seat, the stakes were certainly much higher than I could afford as a 13, 14-year-old. So if I ever lost, then my dad would cover. But if I won, I got to keep the winnings. That was kind of the understanding. And my older brother and I were kind of mathematically inclined, and there's a lot of math involved in this, and a lot of probability involved in this. And we were dealing with a bunch of drunk people because
that helps.
I wanted to participate, but there's a kind of a degree where they're not going to serve me alcohol. Let's just say. So we had the two sober kids just freaking roasting on these drunken adults, and I would at the time I would I could make like a $40, or like on a good night I made like $80 on a good night.
Nice.
So
our family didn't have any qualms if you're sitting at the table and you have a little bit of whatever adult beverage is on either side of you. You know what I mean? And like I said, it's like my family drank and were volatile and also really close. So
that is shocking to hear, Jacques.
You would fight. No, both of
Next
you.
You're going to tell me you come from an Irish family or something.
Both of you know. And the few people who listen to the podcast who haven't met my mom and some other people in my family are always shocked when I say, and they think I'm joking, I'm the quiet one. I don't rank in the top 5.
Yeah.
It is shocking. Jacques is known to be hyperbolic at times, but in this particular case, it's freaking true. It's kind of wacky.
So Biff, let's stop talking about your time in Canada. Let's start talking about my time in Canada.
Sure.
So Joe and I have a very good friend who's up in Montreal right now, and where my management is away on a business trip in Chicago. The boys and I were supposed to go out there. Ended up getting a curveball thrown our way, so it wasn't worth the time to drive out and come back. So I told this friend who, life threw them a curveball, are up in Montreal. It's like, I'll come up for a day or two, and it's an easy drive up there. So I took my little guy. It was a win for everybody because our 15-year-old got to stay home and just have the snacks he wanted and play video games.
Adult supervision, of course.
It's like, we did have a couple people coming by just making sure that, the thing is, when I was 15, it was different. Let's just say, there was a good chance like there was alcohol and my mom was going to be a grandmother early with just different ages. But so my little guy and I at 12, we drove up. Anybody who's not made the drive from Boston to Vermont or to Montreal is missing out on so many things. It's one of those things. If you live in Southern California and you haven't driven up PCH to San Francisco, and it's completely different, but it's the same where you turn a corner. And I said to my 12-year-old at one point, I'm like, does it feel like we're driving through a postcard? And he's like, yeah, it really does. It's mountains. You go up a mountain, you turn a corner, and then there's this pristine lake. And off in the distance, you see like one house and a cabin, and it's just, it was great. And Montreal has a real European feel, because it's French speaking and just the architecture is so old.
And nobody bathes.
But we did. So we stayed, we met a friend. It's really funny because I couldn't find parking. We're meeting at a restaurant downtown, and my buddy's like, oh, why don't we meet here? And he lives really close to that, but he had forgotten. Oh, wait. It's Friday. It's 6:00, and he's obligating me to try to find parking in Midtown Manhattan at that time. So I keep going, and here's a parking sign, and we turn, and we go down an alley that got sketchier and sketchier. There used to be a parking structure there that has been leveled.
Was it named Le Crime Alley?
Did I tell you this? Because my little guy honestly says, Papa, this looks like the place Bruce Wayne's parents were killed. I swear to Batman, he says that. And there used to be a parking structure there. They must have taken it down and building a new one, but we keep going. Finally, I see a parking sign. As I go to pull in, I realize it's a hotel. Oh, it's a DoubleTree. oh, this is the exact DoubleTree hotel we stayed in when we decided to go up for Thanksgiving in 2019. I'm like,
Oh, there you go.
it's like the world has like 12 people and like so we did. I kind of rained a little bit on our friend's parade because when we were talking, you know, when her husband and I texted about where we're going to meet, I'm like, well, don't forget, me and the little guy are vegetarian. He goes, oh, well, his wife is a vegan. She got this great place. I mean, it was fantastic. It was worth the half hour trying to find parking.
Right.
And oh, by the way, when we parked in the lot, we couldn't. It was like, if you're staying in the hotel, it's these 2 levels. If you're just parking, it's the bottom 2 levels. We couldn't find our way out. No signs in English. And there was one sign that looked like an exit sign to stairs, and it led you to a stairwell. But once you go through the door, you can't get back in the parking structure. So you're forced up these 2 flights. And as we get to the door, I noticed it's alarmed. And I'm like, well, buddy, cover your ears. And we just walked out and he's looking back. I'm like, dude, you don't look back.
Right.
You know, it's like an explosion. You just keep walking. Have you not watched Die Hard? And so
I was going to say Expendables, but sure. Yeah. Okay.
you know, we could go down. And so at dinner, and it was fantastic. He was saying, can we go to McDonald's? And I'm like, dude, we'll go to McDonald's on the way out of here tomorrow. And I turned to them. I'm like, yeah, he's so excited because he can eat the McDonald's French fries in Canada. And she's like, why can he eat them in Canada? I'm like, oh, fries in the United States aren't vegetarian. They're not vegan. They're not even vegetarian. She's like, what? And I ruined her world because she has been eating them for the last.
Oh my goodness.
Look, dude, unless you know, why would French fries not be vegetarian?
Yeah.
You know, you have to. Oh, dude, that apple's not vegan. You know.
Listen. You know, the sad reality is, you know, meat is delicious, right? That's the sad reality, right? For people who are vegetarian vegans, you know, we as humans find that thing delicious, and it's like a lot of like, it's so it is unfortunate that McDonald's chooses to do that in this country. I don't know why they don't need to, but they do.
Everything should taste like a burger at McDonald's.
Doesn't it? I haven't had pancakes in a while.
I come out smelling like one.
But so and I just, you know, so that was fun. You know, we saw.
So you're saying you didn't have the Montreal smoked meats there?
I did not. I did not. But the candy, we stopped off on the way out. And
wait, did you have the bagels at least?
200. Oh yeah, dude. There's a bagel place in downtown Montreal that management found last time, and it was like, oh, this is New York City level good bagels.
It's a different animal though, right?
They're a little chewier.
Yeah.
You know, but they were great. The candy's great. We loaded up on that. Dude, the fast food is just better. Like Tim Hortons has like more options like this. I can't even say because it was in French, but it was this jalapeno bread with cream cheese inside. And it's like, wait a minute. How are you guys not all fat too? It's like, oh, you don't eat 4 of them.
What do they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Montreal?
A
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
A Le Big Mac.
And so, but there was.
I'm just here to make movie references.
No, please,
don't mind me.
No. But I just put this on Twitter. Biff, your homeland, your second homeland, you know, my beloved Canada, things aren't the same. There was one thing that I couldn't find that my wife's friend wanted, this certain cake. And as we're last exit before the border, I pull over because I'm going to get him fries one more time. I'm going to, you know, there's a Timmy's there. And there's a grocery store. Like, I don't know if it's a big chain or a chain, but there's a grocery store. I go in, the sweetest girl behind the register. I show the picture. I'm like, can you help me find these? And she does. She puts a close sign on the register, comes, and these cakes that my wife's friend wanted. And then I'm like, you know what? I don't really drink anymore, but Joe's probably coming over. I'm going to get us a 6-pack of Molson. I walk over to the freezer section. There's no Molson.
Freezer?
I'm sorry, the refrigerated section where all
that's
the beers.
what you're right.
Well, and I saw all the beers there, and I'm like, I'm looking.
Yeah.
Dude, what's worse? Biff, I'm going to ask you, because you're more of a beer connoisseur. Biff, what's worse, the fact that there was no Molson or the fact that there was PBR? What has happened to Canada, Biff?
That's pretty weird.
It's
Well, they just sold
Yeah,
out of
that's,
Molson.
that is weird.
no, there wasn't like an empty spot where, because it is Saturday, everyone's stocking up for hockey night in Canada, dude. And I'm like, okay, there's no Molson, that's bad,
That
but
is
you
weird.
do have PBR. So I just
PBR.
put it on Twitter under the Carnival personnel account, and I put at Canada, so it went to the whole country. What has happened to thee? And I put a picture. You have Pabst Blue Ribbons. I mean, I know there's Canadian rednecks. I get that, but it was. I'm not going to say it ruined the trip, but I'm not going to say it didn't ruin the trip. Oh, there we go.
No. I'm glad that National Nightmare is over and that you're back in the good old U.S. of A.
So let me talk a little bit about Joe's people that I do like. So it's funny because I had a meeting the other day.
Wait, what is Joe's people?
I don't know
I'm
what
gonna
he's.
get to it.
I don't know where he's going.
Sexy, it could be
Okay.
sexy people. It could be funny people.
Uh-huh.
It's not so much your people, but adjacent to your people.
I know where you're going. With
So
this.
I had our friend of the podcast, Ronick. I had a phone call with Ronick and Paul, the pumpkin carving guy, Paul, Crafters and Creators. His YouTube channel has blown up, a couple hundred subscribers. Nice. Dude, they are now getting, it's Carvers and Creators on YouTube. They do a live weekly show. They're getting Academy Award-winning set designers. They're getting Emmy Award-winning artisans calling them saying, hey, my other buddy did your show. I'd love to come on type thing.
Nice.
So I had a call with him and Ronick about something, and it got pushed. And so I was now running errands, getting ready. And she's like, where are you? And I showed her. I didn't have a beard before we went to Qatar in 2014, and I kind of grew it out thinking, maybe I'll fit in a little. Maybe I won't stick out as much. I stuck out. But that's where I don't shave, like once every 3 or 4 weeks. And since I started shaving, I think when I was 26, I always looked like I ran through barbed wire. But I found this Brazilian tiny, it's not the size of the little office Joe and I are in. And in Qatar, these 4 or 5 guys had like a walk-in closet shaving place that it was great. And, nobody in there spoke, much English, but it was always really friendly. Well, this place, there's always music playing. The guys are always smiling. Whether it's 11 in the morning or 4 in the afternoon, there's a beer or 2 floating around. It always looks busy, but if there's 6 chairs in there, there's 3 or 4 of their buddies just hanging out. And so I went there and I brought in, because I brought in a case of Heineken with me. It's all Portuguese. Like the music is in Portuguese, the conversations. I think one guy speaks enough where, he greets me, he says hi, everybody waves, I don't know why he's my guy, but the oldest guy there, and they're all so sweet and so nice. And it's just great. I really, really love it. So I'm the returning war hero on VJ Day, walking in with a case of Heineken for Thanksgiving, and I give it to them. And there's no way of explaining that I don't drink. And so, they're passing them to all the people, the guy sitting in the chair getting their haircut, this. It becomes a little, and my guy hands me one. And every 2 or 3 minutes, he taps my hand and steps back so I can take a drink. I did. I nursed down like a half of one and stuff like that.
Oh, good for you.
But I've had, between that and then, hours later, I'm on my way to Montreal. I've had quite the eclectic world traveling.
Well, I'm glad you succumbed to peer pressure. That's all that
Right?
matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Came home, I DUI on the way. We're locked on. Beat the white. No, it was fine. But I did. I'm like, it is peer pressure.
Yeah,
I'm 53,
absolutely.
succumbing to peer pressure.
Right.
But it's one of those things. It's like I don't look. If I went to a place and somebody offered me meat, I would as nicely as I could decline it. That's a little different than. Yeah, I can have it. I'm not like in a program where, there goes the.
Yeah, you were saving up for that 30-year chip.
Yeah, I was 2 days away from my 3-day chip, and I got it. But that's let's see. So that was That's it. I guess I think I'm done. You
By
guys.
the way, the Brazilians are not my people.
No.
I am not.
They just happen
It's
to
kind of like
speak Portuguese.
me saying the Canadians are your people.
Oh, please do. Thank you. I will take that. Oh,
Or the Texans are your
See, now,
people.
Joe.
See?
No. But as far as
Them's fighting
Portuguese
words.
speaking,
Portuguese.
Oh yeah, sure.
Portuguese speaking.
Yes.
So
I get it.
No, I meant they're good people.
On many sides.
Each one were sexy.
I mean, you could have kind of even like pegged me because that country has had a person of Japanese heritage become their president. Is it prime minister of Brazil?
Really?
Oh wow.
Fujimori was his name. There's a lot of there was a huge influx of Japanese immigrants to
And apparently
Brazil.
German and Italian.
Yeah.
immigrants.
Did the Japanese like start moving around there? 44.
Was there like an
what's this was one of the rare incidents when it was not colonialism. It was not imperialistic expansion. They were just looking for jobs.
Okay. I thought it was like an Axis Underground Railroad,
Right,
like after the war, like all three of the.
I know this sounds really, really crazy, but like in the 60s, there were jobs in Brazil that was worth it for the Japanese to immigrate from Japan to Brazil. And there was a mass exodus of Japanese into Brazil to look for these kind of agricultural jobs and stuff like that.
Mm.
That's
Interesting.
I know it sounds crazy now.
And now there's no Amazon. Is there
Yeah.
coincidence?
Oh, thanks. So you fucked up another hemisphere. Nice job, Biff.
I'm just saying that Japan is a beautiful green country. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm not going to play anything, and like part of me is like, why don't I play other band stuff when we leave the show and just ours? It's like it's a rights thing. It's like
Yeah.
But somebody's like, we're not monetizing the show. Archers of Loaf is a band that I've talked about before. That our good friend John, my old bass player, five-head guitarist in Austin turned me on to in 91. They just put out an album for the first time in 25 years. And Biff, I don't know if the bands that you love from like the 80s have put out things recently that you're like, holy shit, this is not all guy rock. This is as good as the stuff that
sadly they actually do kind of keep producing albums, and like a sucker, I keep buying them.
Anything that stands out?
I think there's a bunch. I think the most recent one is, oh my God, there's a band called Talus, which was a completely under the radar band. The bassist was one of those guys who was like one of those technical geek. He was like considered to be the bass player in the 80s. They called him the Eddie Van Halen on bass. He eventually joined David Lee Roth's band, and he also founded Mr. Big.
Oh,
But his original band is called Talus, and they just released an album appropriately called 1985, and it freaking rocks.
So management's beloved Duran Duran. They put out like 6 albums in the last like 8, and on each album there's a song or two that's like, this is pretty damn good. Like one of their songs, like that She's Upset, that was their kind of their comeback song that they don't play anywhere. Reach Up for the Sunrise is great, but this album, I mean. When I'm streaming something on the listening device in my room right now, I can say, hey, add this song to my playlist, Jack's Favorites. There's 3 songs off this new album that I put on that playlist, my favorite things. There are two songs on it that I asked the listening device to skip. But look, Buffalo Tom put out a new album, and I love them like last year. And there's 2 or 3 really good songs, and there's 4 or 5 ones that I'd skip. Dinosaur Jr. just put out an album that's okay, and a couple. But this Archers of Loaf, it's called Reason and Decline. I'm like, there are 3 songs, and I'm like, wait a minute, are these these guys are 5 years older than me, and they're just absolutely disgustingly awesome. But I didn't know.
Well, what's really, really sad is that bands can't make money, creating new albums, right? I mean, that's the thing that's really sad, and that really sucks, right?
It does, and that. Yeah. But all these bands are now touring, and but Archers Loaf, go listen to it, and Joe. And I just threw this on the thing. I want to talk about a couple of Christmas things. So
Christmas.
Joe was talking about Well, first of all, what is the new Christmas movie that Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds did that you're saying is great, a must watch?
It's on Apple TV called Spirited, and it's a Christmas Carol musical. And it's written, like the music is done by the people who, if you're not a musical person, which I kind of am, but kind of am not. I'm musical person adjacent because of my wife. But the people who wrote this musical called Dear Evan Hansen, which was popular, like 5 years ago, they did the music for this movie, and it's real good. It's I don't know if you have Apple TV, Biff, but if you do,
I do not. Sadly, I was going to say, damn it. Another subscription I don't have right now.
Right. So you're missing out on both Ted Lasso and now Spirited. It's it's emotional enough, and Ryan Reynolds can can carry a tune, and so can Will Ferrell. And,
interesting.
And so there's and it's a good story. It's a good take. It's a really I thought unique take on the Christmas Carol story.
That's cool. If you don't have Apple TV, Biff, go to Twitter or go to Instagram. There's a clip of Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell in this big soundstage rehearsing, doing the big song and dance number. And it's just them and a couple other dancers. It's a fantastic clip. It's like this. Yeah. You can see how hard these professionals really put into it. But the best thing about it is when my wife sent me the screen grab, it looks great. It's fun. They look great. And his wife replies to the clip. Can you get pregnant while you're pregnant? She found that quite the turn on.
A little bonus.
Is that Blake Lively?
Yes. Yeah. Blake Lively text. Can you get, because they're pregnant with their fourth.
So, I mean, kid. those two as the social media entities that's one of the best, couples as far as, those two just kind of, they kind of roast each other. They do things to each other on social media. They're really, really good. I don't know if you've noticed, follow them, but
social media.
Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. It's just, they're hilarious.
And so Joe was talking,
Spirited film in Boston, by the way.
Part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to say what it is, but there's a scene that he's like, you're gonna notice it right away.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Is that
I specifically noticed this one specific place because it was down where I used to work.
Okay. I'm not going to say it. I'll write it down afterwards and we'll see if I'm right.
Okay.
Without
is it as awesome? Is it as awesome as Fenway being in the second Godzilla movie?
No, nothing can top that.
Come on.
No, that was great. But so Joe and I were talking about he comes over, we watch stuff. I think it was a couple. We've never watched It's a Wonderful Life together.
And we will never will.
We can't.
Never will.
See, Joe is not caught up to me yet, but I think you're getting there with crying instantly at things that make
there.
you. Are you there?
I'm there,
dude. I don't even like to watch it around my there's commercials with puppies. My wife and I can see her pointing to the boys to look at me, and they'll come over and they'll just put a finger on the side of my head. Yep, he's crying. But that's a show, that's a movie. But Joe was just talking. He's like, wait, I'm seeing it more. I know every line. Why is it hitting me harder?
Because I'm seeing it more, and I know every line, and I know that it's coming, and I know, okay, it's basically the entire movie of It's a Wonderful Life is triggering. That's all it is. It's one big, long trigger.
Yeah. But they did a great job with it, right? That's an excellent job of assembly, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
but then there was a movie that I didn't grow up watching, and I had no emotional attachment to it. And then my wife started watching it. I didn't start watching it until I got married, and it was kind of her favorite movie, and it was Miracle on 34th Street. And now this
which version? Which version?
Oh, the good one. And then and now there are parts of the movie where I can't watch it anymore because it gets me choked up. I'm like, what's happening to me? You know what? This reminds me of I think it was a tweet that Stephen King had put out or some sort of article after his car accident. I think he wanted to I don't know, maybe I'm mixing things up, but I think he said I don't know if it's the car accident or what, but I never cried before the accident watching Titanic, But now, since the car accident, I can't not cry when I watch Titanic.
That's weird.
That's
kind of weird.
Yeah. So now, but yeah, things are happening to me, and even in Spirited, I was like, there was one moment towards the end, and I'm like, oh, come on, I'm around my family. I can hold it together, man.
So,
I do the. And by the way, here's how you cover up crying. Yes. Anybody else have the cover up crying moves where it's just kind of like you go for your phone, you take a drink, you do anything else, you yawn, you kind of stretch, you move, you wriggle, anything.
So I don't know if Joe will come over for this. Next weekend, next Saturday, this will be the test for me. This will be the test. And I know I'm going to fail it. We have turned on a few of her friends to Ted Lasso, but a couple of them have only seen a couple episodes when they've come over. A couple of them have heard about it. We're having a Ted Lasso start to finish watch party next week. So it will be 4 or 5 of my wife's best friends. One of them has a new friend in their life who will be here. When Roy Kent walks out to the pitch as a coach for the first time,
you will not be seen.
Like, no, I won't. Look, I'm not walking out of that room. I can watch that scene over and over, and I will never get tired of it. But it's going to be interesting and it's funny because this harkens me back. I had this friend in college, Tina. She was, to this day, she's a great friend. She's probably, and I'll say this because I know she doesn't listen to podcasts, the only girl I've ever really, really, really had a crush on that nothing. Like, and it was one of those things where I back in the day, I had to have, I never made a first move in my life. We'll just put it like that. And it's funny because one morning I woke up in her bed and it was awesome. We had a show at the campus that it was easier to carry me to the elevator there and it's one of those mornings where I remember laying there thinking, awesome, but I missed it. And it was nope. And it was like nope. It
was just courteous.
Yeah, it was courteous.
It was courtesy.
/ didn't want to be an accessory to it.
Yeah. You got nothing. You got to sleep.
But I was like, so I'm that dude. That's like 30 plus years, and I remember first thinking, and it's like. And we've all had those things where we've woken up not where we thought we were, or no idea how, or maybe you guys haven't, but there's a reason I don't really drink anymore. And I remember that, like that euphoria of like, yes. And then instantly that wave of, oh, and then, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So she's great. But I tell you this because the summer, that the summer before I went to Fitchburg, Field of Dreams came out, and I saw it like 3 or 4 times. And it's playing on campus, and she goes with me. It is not a date, but it wasn't not a date, maybe, or maybe I was hoping it was either way. I'm taking it. We're gonna go see this. I've seen it 3 or 4 times. I'm going to be fine. I've been a fucking crier my whole life. Like, literally. It's like there's 1 or 2 places I choke it back, but there's a couple tears. And then when the reveal of his dad, it was his dad.
Right.
Oh, damn it.
Want to have a catch?
Done. Done. Like, absolutely a pile of Jell-O goo.
So, you know what's really sad is that I am really bad at being triggered by the crying that they really want you to hit, like a lot of the ones where they, like
if they pump up the music or something.
Well, whatever it is, it's like I just don't. But I am also a crier, but it's all on the stuff that where they intended for you to be sad, but not like the monumental ones, like there was that Terms of Endearment, right? Like there's that final scene, and my wife is like bawling, and is like, yeah, I saw this coming, right? And whereas, have you ever seen Hotel New Hampshire?
No.
John Irving, great. Do you know who John Irving also wrote World According to Garp?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So it's his novel.
What are the chances of another airplane hitting this house?
But at the beginning of this movie, Hotel New Hampshire, there's a bear involved, and the bear dies, and I'm like bawling, and everybody else is like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, they killed the bear, oh my god. But, so I am like really bad. I'm the guy that gets set off at all the inappropriate times.
You're like
when everybody else is crying,
You're the in between crier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I went to a movie with a bunch of people like E.T., everybody's crying at the end of E.T.'s dying. It's like everybody's like, oh, come on. Are you really? Come on, guys. And everybody else is crying,
there's,
it's like
there's just certain things that,
Yeah.
Right. I cry now at the end of Back to the Future Part 3.
No,
when they
great.
and I'm like, this is like something I'd seen since I was 14 or whatever, and then like as an adult, and I'm like, he found love, I'm like, oh my god,
I'll say that is a fantastic.
And when you see
that
as
is a fantastic
kids,
sequence, right?
Yeah.
He got that life. He didn't fall in love. He fell in love and had children, and
right,
great. And it's
yeah.
I'm tearing up thinking about it.
Try not to.
Look, we'll move on to another topic, but fuck the Goldbergs. I've never watched an episode. I've never watched one episode of the Goldbergs without having a moment.
Oh, really?
Not one.
Wow.
Not one episode of the Goldbergs haven't made me.
What a wuss.
Oh, dude, it's pathetic. No. So last podcast we talked about how my parents accidentally took my sons to a drag show, Kinky Boots. Absolutely awesome. Tony Award winning play, music by Cyndi Lauper.
So let me ask you this. Like in LA, they just extended the run of the Empire Strips Back.
Okay, that's where we're going. 2-3 years ago, I'm at Joe's. We podcast, and management and I went to a Star Wars burlesque show right near Joe's. So she met me at Joe's, and we went over, and it was fun. It was fun. It was fine. So management's friends last year. Management has a friend, people who've adopted one of our rescue animals, and they have this amazing band. I'll post about them. I'll put a link up. And they do a Nightmare Before Christmas burlesque show every year. And management has a couple friends who have kids the same age as of ours, and they went last year, and we were supposed to go, but I forget where we were traveling, or we had something that we couldn't go. So this year we took our boys. So last podcast I talked about taking our boys to a drag show with grandma, who had to have it explained to her by my 12-year-old. Grammy, it says kinky in the title. Like what don't you get about this? And then so this one, and I'm telling you, first of all, live music is just the best, and all the band was beyond fantastic. And one of the guys in the band was just a narrator. He had one of those like baritone voices that you would pay to listen to him read the phone book. It was
is that like you remember when Letterman used to have the top 10 where he had Barry White do the top 10?
Oh, yes.
Right,
dude.
Right.
There was Oprah.
Yeah.
It's like that,
no,
right?
He had one word, like Maleficent. I can't even say the word, but Barry White,
I think the number one. So the number I distinctly remember number one word being Oprah.
Yeah.
And obviously I can't do it justice, right? But it was just fantastic.
Well, repeat after me. Oprah has all the money. I think Dave Lemon said Oprah has all the money at least twice a show.
Oprah, Uma, Oprah.
It will never get old.
No.
And so, anyways, we take the boys, and because the whole group went, it was management, like 3 of her really close friends. One of our close friends has a daughter who, every time this woman takes my son, who's 12, and her daughter out, like they go to the beach or something, they get stopped every single time, 5 or 6 times. Your twins are the most beautiful children I've ever seen. Because both my boy has like really straight, they look like twins. And there's been people like, I run a modeling agency. My friend is like, I'll ask her mom if it's cool. Like if I post some pictures, you guys would be like, wait, they're not models, and they're so we went. Dude, the music was, this band is fantastic. The actors and the costuming, it was first rate. It was, and it's I'll post a place it was right in Cambridge, right in the heart of Cambridge, packed. Like the place was absolutely packed. Everything about it was wonderful, including the look and expression from my 15-year-old. I can sum it up by saying, we are not amused.
Okay.
He was not. And there's one picture that my wife gets of him looking over, because they're right at the table. They're right where the stage is. And there's a guy's ass maybe 10 feet away.
Wow.
And he has a look like, I could talk for 3 hours explaining how unhappy he was.
Right. It's like when Super Dave Osborne would get interrupted.
Yes, that's the look. Yes. I
Just
don't
that
have to post
stone
him.
face kind of.
Yes. Everybody else is great, you
Yeah.
know, and management lives for this stuff. And she got dressed up. She stole some costuming from oh, now I'm gonna fuck it up. I just fucked it up. Your line, George. Your line. Oh
You can edit this out.
no, because I want everybody to know how stupid I am. And
It would have been good if we
prepared
prepared for this, right?
Solid gold dancers.
Oh,
Solid. She literally looked like she and because
at least she didn't look like Madam.
so.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
And the only reason I know that is because I follow a YouTube channel that had recently posted a Solid Gold episode, complete with Madam. I thought that it looked like the whole thing was hosted by Madam.
So she comes downstairs and we're carpooling there, you know, because we don't drink, so we can drive if her friends want to drink. And her friends know me really well, and they love me, and I love her friends, but they don't know me. Like they do and they don't, because anyways, but I don't say anything in front of her friends, but she comes in the kitchen and I'm like, where's the rest of the outfit? And she then has to tell her friends, listen to what my dad said over here.
Man.
Look,
Right.
if she sneezed, we'd all get to see, you know,
Right.
anyways, but she did. She had this glow in the dark. After the show, the characters who had these amazing costumes came up to her and like, we were all talking about you backstage. Does that glow in the dark? Where did you get that?
That's kind of like that's like kind of like showing up to a wedding wearing a white dress. You know?
No, but her friends look great. I mean, all her friends
All
just
right.
have these fun outfits.
Yeah.
Dude, but it was I will just say, and our friend Gene, who's been on the podcast, has done shows with these guys before, and I tweeted out, it's like, what is it? I don't like leaving the house, but I'll go to any show that these two are, because of all the live shows I've seen this year, and I'm not saying this because they're friends of ours. The band and that show who did the night, and they're doing another. Oh gosh, we're not taking the boys to this one. They have another burlesque show on like the 23rd.
Do they have names? These people?
Yeah. I'm not going to say it right, but I'll look it up
Okay.
while we do it. But Gene, Gene Dante and them, we got to get them to a show. But anyways, my bad parenting. Great parenting. People are coming up like, this is so cool. You take your kids to this. It's like, I disagree.
Right.
I mean, listen. So this is the thing that question for Americans, right? It's like, so what is this? This.
Hang up with sex.
Why is it so bad to go? Like, why is drag shows so bad? Right?
I mean, honestly, it's just an uncomfortable discussion about sex, and that's all it is. It's basically adults just don't want to. I don't know. I think there's like,
but at the same time, right? Come on, how much drag material is there in, say, the Looney Tunes cartoons, right?
But that's funny drag. You see, when Bugs Bunny puts on a dress.
So if it's funny, then right? I mean, at some point, right? Because
yeah.
Oh my.
Can you say the name?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're holding.
sorry, taking it in my hand.
I have copy.
But I mean, Shakespeare used to be a drag show, right?
Right.
Exactly. Right. Because
Right?
women weren't allowed to.
In my homeland, kabuki is all drag. I don't know if you know this, but kabuki is all drag.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it stems from.
Wait, I've been masturbating to dudes.
But nothing wrong with that, Jacques.
Kabukaki.
I'm sorry. That goes back to, once again, bukkake is a normal term.
I know. It means something
Normal
different
term.
to us.
Yeah. You have your version, and we have Pornhub.
Yeah, the swastika is actually a sign of peace, and we know it means something different now. right now. But
You know what's funny is that in Japan, like there's the swastika and there's like a rotated swastika,
you're right.
and the rotated swastika
Does one mean
is
stop
still
and one
in-
mean go or something?
no. In Japan, right? It actually is a map icon to mean that there's a temple. Like
Right.
if you see a swastika on a map, that means that there's a temple there.
Right. I think I did know that. Yeah, but now it means something different. Now it
Well,
means
no, they
something
still
different.
use it. That's the thing.
I know.
You know.
Yeah, so I guess it's all open to interpretation. But I guess
So what's the name of the band, Joe? You can.
I'm sorry for coughing. The name of the band is Walter Sickert and the Army of Broken Toys.
And they had the Boston Video of the Year this year for the. Oh, and I'm going to bring the room down for just a second. Both Gene and this band, Walter Sickert, played many shows with Dave Marabella and the Rationales.
Yeah.
It was a tight knit community,
Yeah.
and so it was one. But the thing about getting back to the burlesque thing, it's the same thing. My wife has always said it's like. I'll be honest, she has helped me grow in so many ways where, if you told me 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I'd be taking my 12-year-old to a burlesque show, I'd be like, no. But she's like, okay, so you'll let them watch a rated R movie. We, as a family, we watched the Alien series, like the 4 Alien movies. So you're cool with this creature busting out of somebody's guts and guts flying all over the place. You're fine with that.
Yes.
But pasties on a pair of boobs somehow is going to fuck our kids up. Okay, that makes, and it is. So she's really helped me, since the boys are born. It's like, yeah, let's not raise them like typical American douchebags.
Yeah, I went to a burlesque show. It was called Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And
oh my God.
quite the awakening.
I mean, come on. Is that like one of the most underrated movies ever?
No,
underrated by us.
No, it's
I mean,
highly rated.
I think who talks about it now?
Joe might have lost his virginity.
Yeah, I mean, it is such an. I mean, the moment that I saw Daffy and Donald on the same screen, I said, "Oh my God, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen."
Yeah. It's one of those movies where I think it's because it's too seedy now, and it's like there's a lot of questionable stuff in there. So maybe that's why.
What's questionable?
Let's see. Let me count the ways.
Wait,
1,000, 2 1,000.
And I say in the context of a lot of the stuff that have are considered to be great over the years, right? I mean,
I think it's just because it's really it's an adult movie with cartoon characters, so it was appealing to kids, but it was meant for adults.
What's wrong with Joe Camel? He's cool, man.
Right? Exactly.
He's cool.
Okay.
He wears that jacket.
Little known fact about Jessica Rabbit: in the theatrical release, there's a scene where she's thrown from a cab. And there's an upskirt shot, very briefly, like 2 frames. But then
which 2 frames of those?
And I think it made it onto the laser disc. But then when they saw it, and it was like, oh yeah, wait, we got to change that. We got to market that out. And then, So, but there are images out there. Search the web, guys.
I'll be right back. On a completely unrelated note, I'll be right back.
Jacques, just. I mean,
I'll be right back, Biff.
He's going to the tissue.
Like this is like titillating to the the person who comes from a country where there's like octopus involved and
oh yes,
right.
Oh, God.
So yeah, come on,
tentacles.
So
Tentacles.
I had it on this. I don't even want to talk about it. Stupid Twitter guy is now like, he's because the other guy won't jump on Twitter. So now he's getting back at him by saying, I'm going to support the other guy if you run. Dude, why are you trying to watch the village burn? You know what I mean? It's like,
why spend the money if you can't have fun while doing it?
Dude, I don't know. I wish I knew how to quit you. Like, I went on Instagram this week to try to figure it out. It's like, we have the same podcast equipment for 6 years now that every time I set it up, it's the first. Yeah, learning new things ain't my bag, baby. But I kind of want to just stop using Twitter because that guy is so douchey.
Well, it's kind of like, I want to, I don't like a lot of parts of America, but there's some parts I do like.
That's true.
My friends and family are here. That's kind of like Twitter. It's like, God damn it. I wish I didn't have to see these assholes pop up every now and then on my timeline or people referring to them or reporting on them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But I think the unfortunate thing about it is that I think Twitter is really good about presenting certain things, right? Where from, so it's the whole convergence of what the check marks, blue check marks mean, and what the conversations that they create, really provide. Like there are these threads that these blue check marks provide for us that are really valuable stuff that you can actually verify elsewhere, just to really kind of go beyond what you can just see in normal like news outlets and wherever else, right?
Mhm.
And I think there was a value that Twitter provided in that arena that this fucking guy is just ruining.
Well,
right?
I won't do it justice, so I'll post it. But I saw a clip the other day.
What are you going to post it on?
Shut up, Joe. You just gave me just enough
Dude.
rope.
Follow us on
social.
Mastodon.
No, anyways, I won't go down that rabbit hole because I have 3 different friends. Follow me here, follow me here, follow me. That's like I'm signing up on my toaster.
Well, this is like people like, sort of like, I guess like leaving their like farewell notes. Remember when were you all part of the last like that when Twitter was apparently about to go down? Was everybody on board with like the farewell? It was a pleasure meeting everybody, and it was fun while it lasted, kind of thing. And then nothing
The
happened.
sun came out the
Yeah.
next day.
Right.
Well, this guy, so the first day the blue checkmark came out, and I saw this guy put it was like a 10-minute little video. He writes for some online magazine that tracks corporate bad guys. And he decided he was going to get a blue check mark. And he got a blue check mark under whatever the company that makes insulin, the number 1 insulin producer.
Eli Lilly.
And he's like, it's like Eli Lilly, the real Eli Lilly, blue check mark.
It was like Eli Lilly and Eli Lilly Company or something like that.
And he tweets out like 8 words. I was like, from now on, insulin is free.
Right.
And I guess the world
Proud to announce.
almost stopped. And people lost their shit. And
people lost their stock value.
People lost their stock value. And that's why like the next day, like they had to change the blue check. Because everyone's telling Elon, it's like, this, like one and this little documentary that the guy did, he had all these great things like day 1, Nintendo USA, and then like a dash mark, so it looked like Nintendo, and here's Mario giving the finger.
Well, no, what's great about the handle that was used, it was Nintendo of US,
That's
which
it,
can
yeah.
also be read as Nintendoofus. So,
Right.
And then it was this picture of Mario giving the finger. But yeah, it honestly, when I think about the Twitter verification, buy a check mark for $8 a month thing, I think of the Incredibles line, when everybody's special, then nobody is. Yeah, it's so stupid.
So I shouldn't spend the $8 and verify Carnival podcast.
Elon Musk doesn't know what he's doing, but he's having a blast doing it, and he's just kind of riding the wave. Like he knows he can call all the shots. He knows it's kind of like. I'm waiting for the moment where it's kind of like in Goodfellas, where it's like, and when you can't write another check, you bust the joint out, you light a match, like that
right.
It's that mentality where he's just going to run it into the ground or not, or people are going to run away from it. But yeah, it's a real shit show. And now it's like, well, now they're reinstating all sorts of suspended accounts. All sorts.
Fascist, openly
Yeah.
anti-Semitic. It's awful. I don't even want to go into it, but has Lake conceded yet, or is she still contesting?
Kari Lake.
Arizona.
I don't know if she conceded.
I don't think I've seen it. Yeah.
I don't think she'll ever concede.
Okay.
I don't know. I think you have to take her out with a blow dart. I don't know. Or like Terminator, like she has to fall into a vat of boiling oil.
And melt, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then give a thumbs up on the way down.
We're not advocating pushing anybody in a vat of melted
No.
mercury.
If oil just happens to be around her during
and she falls in,
right,
we won't throw her a life preserver.
But I mean, I'm presuming both of you guys follow Rex Chapman. Is that right?
He's the best.
It's like him talking about Kari Lake is like he's basically painting her as the slut that just hangs around the basketball players, right? I mean, that's how he's painted.
And now
her.
he's saying she's hanging around doofus
Yeah. Oh my God.
So Biff, we could not download.
Yeah, you know
Again.
what? This is what happens because my favorite network will essentially, they rotate the material. So I think what they literally do is they willfully kill these videos because they don't want people just looking at the newest stuff.
Yeah.
But this
okay.
particular one was this heinous crime of a person who disrupted a police operation by sending over, I think and I'm going from memory, so I might not be right, but like 1,300 crank phone calls to the local police
about a traffic issue.
Because you're right, because he was really dissatisfied about the way the local police was not enforcing some of the traffic violations, because like people may speed over in these residential zones or not properly stop and all that shit. And so he had complained about it, and in his mind the police wasn't doing enough. So he decided that he'll screw the police. Basically, as the great Ice-T would say, fuck the police, right? He just went on. Yeah, he just went on and just did 1,300 crank calls to the police to report false crimes, and he was charged for it.
Good.
Oh man!
And he was charged for disrupting the operation of a business kind of a thing. It's like some of the, like, I love some of the Japanese laws that they use to get. It's kind of like they got Al Capone for tax evasion thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like most of the times, like the people who get charged for murder, they don't get charged for murder first. They get first charged for inappropriate
weapons possession or
no inappropriate processing of corpses.
Oh.
Because like when a person dies, you're supposed to get them into a funeral place and get them cremated. There's a whole thing that they're supposed to do. So that's what they usually get them off first, and then they add all the other shit later on.
That's
great.
That is awful in ways I don't want to even go down.
True. Yes.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
So Joe, are you playing any game? First of all, before you tell me if you're gaming, are there going to be any PS5s before Christmas?
I don't know. I haven't looked. You have to use Twitter or some social media and look, for those accounts that will instantly kind of post, like, they're aggregator sites. So they're like, say like, there's an account that I follow called Cheap Ass Gamer, where wherever there's a video game sale, they'll immediately post like a link to how you can buy it, or they'll say like daily they'll be like PS5s are available at Walmart right now, or
okay.
So you have to be, and that's how I got my Xbox Series S, which was like,
because I want to play Gotham Knights.
You got to be Johnny on the spot.
And every time I go to the mall, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna run through GameStop, and it's like, no, we have. And like one day, it's like, and the girl, she was so sweet. She's like, and she, the same girl always works there, dresses in a different anime thing, which is great. She loves her job and she gets to cosplay, but she's like, oh, we had one. It was here for like an hour, but we don't have any now. I'm like, and that helps me how?
You're right, exactly. Yeah.
It's like I had a
Ryan Reynolds was just here and he was shaking everybody's hand and taking pictures.
Well, I heard Mr. T was at the mall.
And I thought I'd go a little later. So yeah, you kind of have to do the online purchase thing, and at least sometimes these sites are not like Ticketmaster where you can actually get into a queue and buy.
We will not fall down that awful rabbit hole. We'll fall down the awful. Are you playing anything now? What's been the last couple weeks?
I just 100%ed Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
Is it all 9?
Yes, all 9 stories. Yeah, so I 100% of the game.
See, I saw that you text me that, but I didn't. I went to your LinkedIn. You hadn't updated the LinkedIn. Dude. Those red bricks. Some of those. Did you find them all?
Yeah. Well, they don't have red bricks in this one. They're called like Kyber bricks, and they're blue see-through bricks. But yes, I 100% of the game. I found everything. I think I unless there's like 105% way of winning
Dude,
the
that's
game,
awesome.
I think I'm done. But there might be achievements on the Xbox that I didn't get, like
Or
you know,
DLC stuff that you have.
right. There's a lot of DLC. That
Downloadable content.
I
for
will
the
not
people.
be downloading the content.
So moving on. Biff, we're getting into your wheelhouse right here.
Okay.
I was thinking honestly, as I was leaving Canada, I was thinking Hockey Night in Canada and Foster Hewitt. Do you think you've seen more NHL games than Foster Hewitt did?
Well, Foster Hewitt only, probably watched the games that he, broadcasted on. But yeah, I do watch a lot of NHL. Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm loving. I usually don't follow hockey too much until after like the New Year, but it's hard not to watch. A lot of the Bruins stuff.
Yeah,
and everyone's
that's a good team.
And I don't look. Like we're back to where we were before 2001, where we know we're always gonna be left at the altar. We are forever the bridesmaids, and so I'm always waiting for the carpet to be ripped out. They're amazing, but I keep telling myself, not a lot of cups have been won in November. Not a lot of cups are won in November.
Listen. It's one of those deals where I definitely think that that's a team that's good enough to win the cup, right? But at the same time, it's when you go to the playoffs, wacky things happen, right? And like an example is the 2019-2020 Tampa Bay Lightning was a fucking crazy good team. They were so good that they thought they would walk over everybody, and they lost in the first round to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, and what's funny about you bringing that up, and which
2018-19, I'm sorry, yeah,
which the last time the Bruins made it to the Cup. Like when I say the stars aligned, each round they played a worse team. Like they won their first round. I forget who they played in the second round, but whoever they played in the second round was the Cup. It might have been.
Right.
So this is 20. Was this 2019?
Yeah,
it was 20. It was before COVID because we watched it. We watched it together in a bar, and it's like, so maybe that was it. Maybe they're supposed to play Tampa in the second round. And Tampa got knocked out by Columbus. So then the team they played in the third round, who was supposed to be good, got knocked out by that. And then they played St. Louis, who was like the lowest seeded team. And just the matchup, like it was supposed to be a 5-game series for the Bruins. Like, but no, and everybody in sports radio is like, dude, this is if you don't win this cup, you will, like, the stars aligned. Like, you got so much help. Like when your NFL team is on the bubble the last week, it's like, okay, we need to beat this team, but these 6 other teams need to lose, and Tampa Bay needs to tie.
No. I think the issue with that year, 2019, was that they had the team that should have won that Stanley Cup. But for whatever reason, they didn't show up in Game 7. And
Not
St.
at
Louis
all.
did.
And it was
St. Louis did. And I mean, there's just no explanation for it, right? I mean, it's just one of those things that happen.
And you saw it in the first period. It was like by the end of the first period, I think
like,
they're down 2-0.
What? It's like, where is everybody? Where are the stars? What are they
one
doing?
Particular goalie, but
I don't think it was a goalie issue.
No, but Rask, look, I mean, and you like him more than a lot of people in Boston, but he's a victim of it was more than one big game that he didn't have his A game.
Yeah, whatever. You know what?
Look, this is what I'll say about Rask. He didn't lose you a lot of games. He didn't lose a lot of games. He didn't steal a bunch of games. There was a lot of games and that was a game he did not steal.
I mean, here's what I'll say about this. If you look at the 2010 Boston Bruins, right? That is a team that needed Tim Thomas to steal games for you.
Right.
The 2019 Boston Bruins was a very good team that didn't require the goalie to steal games for you. You look at the freaking last year's 2021 Colorado Avalanche with garbage goaltending. That's what Boston should have been.
Oh yeah,
Boston,
no. The perfection.
I'm sorry. This is not on Tuukka Rask. It is on the fact that the guys in front of him failed to do what they were supposed to do.
Oh no, 100%. No, I'm not blaming Rask for that. The perfection line, like those 3 guys were all in the top 20 of scoring. Like you had 3 guys on one line who all finished in the top 10, probably the top 15 in scoring. Goose egg, and none of them showed up for that game. But anyways, it's I'm still listening to Wrexham, like, the Wrexham podcast. Like there's two. The Wrexham goalie has his own podcast now, which is great. He had like his old goalie coach on who, it's a must listen to that episode. There's a husband and wife who have, it's like me, my wife, and Wrexham. So I've been listening to those podcasts. I've only watched one World Cup game, and because Joe's a dick and sent me the John Oliver break. I lived in Qatar. I was looking forward to this, but
it's brutal.
You can only hide your head in the sand so much.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a bad. Like I texted to you, the FIFA and the Qatari government are the chocolate and peanut butter of atrocities. Yeah. Like they're not a good mix. Everybody was gung ho to get this thing, going in the summertime when it was going to be like 140 degrees in the shade. And they eventually capitulated and said, okay, maybe we can push it off to November when it's only going to be 100 degrees.
Well, we moved there in 2014. Everybody knew it was going to be moved. Like there was no boots on the ground there had any, because Joe's not exaggerating. No, it's not that the temperatures hit 100 and teens routinely. The thing about Qatar is it's not Arizona 110, 112. It's Orlando 110, 112, where the humidity, it can be 114 and the humidity can be 95%. And you are going to die. Not the players who are air conditioned and hydrated. Right. It's the Irish fucks who flew in, who are standing waiting for the shuttle outside for 20 minutes, and that they will die. Everybody knew it was going to be moved, which screws up.
But to be fair, if you've seen some of those, football fans, if we called a few of them out, is it such a bad thing?
And by the way, the part of the John Oliver piece was, they were awarded the Stanley Cup. I mean, the World Cup. I was
holy cow! They're doing the Stanley Cup in Qatar.
I hope, God forbid. What I was going to say is that they were awarded the World Cup. Thank you. And like, what was it, in 2010? So they had 12 years to build this, and they got it built pretty damn fast. And how do you do that? With what do you call that kind of labor where you don't pay a lot of money for the people that are working on the word will come to me.
Servants.
Yes, and then the conditions the working conditions are pretty much what you would expect.
They weren't the working
I don't know if you look at the Qatar government statistics, it doesn't look that bad. It's shocking that people are kind of questioning this, because if you look at their statistics, it doesn't look too bad.
I feel boxed in, and I shouldn't. I don't know why. Every time it's not this conversation.
You're getting
now.
Defensive. Like
it's hard to right because I loved Qatar.
I know.
I loved my time there. I will say everything that you're hearing it's 75-80% accurate. Mm-hmm. And I'll just throw out a couple things so we don't do a whole podcast on it. There is Arab prejudice. There are Arab. Nobody wanted, if this was moved to, Kuwait. If it was
Arabia.
in Saudi's a different. Saudi's fucking awful. But if it went to Bahrain, if it went to Abu Dhabi, if it went to Kuwait or something like that,
United Arab Emirates.
Well, Abu Dhabi's part, like
okay.
The
UAE is.
UAE's, think about New England.
Yeah.
So it's it's the same thing. It's 6 different private states that form one thing, and they all have their own thing, but there's one leader to rule them all. There can only be one. Anyways, so I will say this about Qatar. When we got there in 2014, yeah, it was fucking bad how these people were treated. And in 2022, it's fucking bad how these people are treated. However, it did get a lot better. I mean, a lot better. They grew and matured, let's say 40 years in the span of 10, not because they had to, because of the world pressure, because of all the action, not because they're benevolent and they're like, you know what, we should do this better. The working conditions now. There's no OSHA. there's no unions, but it did get better. Is it still horrific? Yes, it's 100% horrific. You know, I mean,
I guess you do have a point where it's like I was, I think FIFA's a terrible organization.
them and the NCAA are the two worst on the planet.
Right. In the NFL,
I
see you, NFL.
We see
Well,
it. Yeah,
come on.
But
Come on, the
I-
Olympic Committee. Come on.
Right. So what I mean to say is that the FIFA is bad, but they do bring a lot of attention to their events. They bring a lot of world attention to their events, and of course, when you invite all these countries to this one event, you're going to get a clash of culture. And you're also going to get an infusion of new ideas into countries that may not have, embraced those ideas. So, yeah, there's a part of me that says, we should shun these, these countries and these corrupt governments until they get their act together. But at the same time, if we don't infuse newer ideas or make them or force their hand to make change, I guess it's kind of like saying, these red states are out of control. People just move out of there if they don't like it. But then it's like, well, wait a minute. If we move out of the red states, then, or if
the good people move out of there,
liberal people move out of these red states, then they'll just stay red states.
So again, having lived there for 3 years, I still have friends there. I still go on tour there with the military and stuff like that. So I'm a little more defensive than I should have been. I do apologize, but I do say I've become friends. I've become friends, not like I know migrant workers. Like we became and still in touch with, people who were on the lower scale who got brought over from India and the Philippines and taken advantage of, that we forged long-term relationships with, and they have a little different take. And like I told Joe, it's like, a lot of these people, look, they bought their ticket. They know what they were getting into. I say, let them cry. No, they know what they're getting into, but it's better than where they were. We're going to get taken. And just because you can get taken advantage. And I will also say I was working with the national team, the hockey team. And one of the older players / coaches, who is like 20, 21, we were talking one day, and he points to my phone and he goes, and he was agreeing. He says, "You're right. And we're getting better. And this and blah, blah, blah." But he goes, you think your cell phone was put together by people making a living wage? And it's like, and this was at the time when Apple started to put nets on their buildings to keep people from jumping off. So just because one country does it doesn't make it right. But and he was also saying, hey, so who built your railroads? Who built? And it's true. And it's like, but it's awful. So there is 80% of what you're hearing is right. The numbers are greatly inflated, but yeah, every day, because it's not just the World Cup. They were building the railroad. They were building 3 highways. And Qatar really believed if you built it, there will come another Field of Dream references. They honestly, in their heart of hearts, and this is coming from friends in the government I've worked with, people are going to come here and they're going to fall in love and they're going to move their corporate headquarters there. They were building skyscrapers. Like you look at the skyline of Doha 10 years ago and now, and there's these gorgeous buildings. They're about 20% occupancy. It's like, how many Spirit Halloweens do you guys think you're going to get?
Listen, I think. Listen, ultimately, right? I think, the FIFA is putting a lot of attention on this, but it's really not clear whether some of these changes that they've instituted will be permanent or not. Right? That's the part that's hard. And the sad reality is, with these fossil fuel countries, the only thing that would really make a lot of these human rights related things permanent is if the world gets kind of on board with essentially addressing the fossil fuel. It's a kind of a completely different thing that we probably don't have time for, but if we really consider this whole climate issue right now and essentially the need to expunge the fossil fuel, industry,
and embrace alternative energies and all that stuff that Bernie Sanders is pushing.
Well, here's the fucked up thing: Qatar's second biggest import next to natural gas, solar panels. Like they're like, yeah, this is going to last forever, and they've diversified. But it's one of those things. It's like the atrocities were bad, and they changed because the world for all the right reasons have to focus on them. Also, a little bit of like, hey, the European countries, and at the same time, it's like it wouldn't have got better. So it's like, is it bad it went there because the living conditions got better for them? They got a long way to go, but yeah, it all sucks, and it does make it.
But
harder
it also,
to watch
again, it's at the same. Listen. And I want to apologize to you for kind of putting your back against the wall during that text exchange, because I was getting heated. Like on my end, I was like, listen, you were making. I didn't want to make my indictment of their government an indictment of the people, and like you because you immediately came back with the anti-Arab sentiment and the media, and I'm like, yes, but that's not what's happening here. It's more, it can be conflated. Yes, in some circles, you can conflate anti-Arab sentiment with what the government's doing. But, not all Russians are Putin. Not all Americans are Kari Lake or, fucking Ron DeSantis or, Donald Trump.
Too many of them.
You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to, all I did was text you because I knew that like you were going to watch the World Cup and you lived in Qatar, and this was of interest to you.
Yeah.
And I was,
and it's like I didn't want to know.
But I didn't think I was telling you or showing you anything that you didn't already know.
But when John Oliver does it, it's like because when I first got over there in 2014, ESPN, they came down with a hammer, and there was one specific ESPN, like they did an hour-long thing on it, and that was the catalyst between instantly. Here's some new laws. We're capping the hours worked. We're doing this. Oh, all the back pay, you got to fucking pay these guys. And it was one of those things where we take your, we hold on to your passport, so you can't leave until you're honored. Like a lot of things, they got better with. They got better with. They still got
debtor's jail, debtor's prison.
Yeah. And it is. Look,
but you know what? But I think it's the kind of the, completely. It's a different kind of a issue, but it's really the China, syndrome where we went through the kind of the 90s where do we shut the Chinese out of, world, economy and operations because of all of their atrocities, or do we kind of invite them in and then hope that, having them as part of the world, community will kind of force them into aligning themselves, into, becoming, more of a better, global citizen. And in the end, what's happened is that by taking the stance of letting China in and allowing them to become now an economic superpower, now they are a freaking economic superpower. Countries are beholden to them, and they're still dealing with economic, with human rights atrocities, right? I mean, we all know this, right?
Right. It's
so
almost
this
like, it's like what you're saying is like, well, we held, the West held the upper hand prior to China's involvement, but now China's become so much, we become so dependent on China that China has the upper hand, and they don't have, they can ignore their
right.
Well, that experiment has failed before, right? In a way. Now that China is obviously an extreme example, but that whole thing of letting them in with the idea that we hope that they'll behave better when they're part of the global community hasn't really worked with China, hasn't really worked with Russia. Is it going to work with the Middle East states? I don't know.
It's not going to work with the World Cup because the World Cup's going to go away
in 2 months. Well, what's interesting is the World Cup went to Qatar and people said, hey, you guys are treating people pretty fucking awful, and we're all watching. They're like, yeah, we're trying to get better. And when the Olympics went to China, and they're like, hey, you're treating people pretty awful. They're like, yeah, we really are. You know,
when the Olympics went to Russia,
they were,
I mean, the Olympics are another fucking bag of shit. But there again, that's a perennial event that brings all the world athletes together, and then. So the Olympics. What's worse, Olympics, NCAA, F, marry, kill, Olympics, FIFA, or the NCAA?
We should have had that, right? That should be our next podcast. FMK, NCAA, IOC, FIFA, right?
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
We're gonna do
That is a
We're gonna
fucking
do a
great-
sideshow.
Oh my
where
god,
we
you
each
are a
come
freaking
here.
genius.
We're gonna do a sideshow where you have to come here with 3 each, and we throw those out. My little guy pulled this shit on me the other day. We're driving, and he got into this, and he's like, "Okay, Papa, you got to give up one." And he's like, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, and
Oh come on, that's so easy. It's DC.
I don't know.
Everybody knows it's DC.
I don't know. Well, look, I
Yeah.
hope he's doing well in foster care. I hope he got the package I said, but we did. We had to talk about it. I'm like, yeah, I love this and the Deadpool and Infinity War. And I count Infinity War and Endgame.
I don't
as
know
one
why you're
movie.
rambling on.
But
I
I'm
don't
like,
know why
yeah,
you're rambling on.
but
DC is garbage.
I kept
We
DC
know
in Star
DC
Wars.
is garbage.
No, because
Come on.
Batman and Superman.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, come on.
I'd
DC
also
is
like
gar-
to
I mean,
say, and brightest day and darkest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let all of those who
Yeah,
worship
whatever.
evil might
I mean,
wear my power.
I
and
think I think I'm gonna have to keep the Star Wars, and then I think Star Wars.
So
is,
you know what? I'm gonna one of the next sideshows we do. You're a genius. You're an evil genius. I was gonna say you're an evil and a genius.
I'm thinking of buying Twitter.
Do you and when you said it's a perennial event, brings us to parenting tips. You got one?
Let's see. Well, I tweeted them all out actually last week. Did you see all my parenting tips?
I wrote them down.
Okay.
I'm a better person because of it.
Okay.
I cried.
I deleted all my tweets.
I cried.
Yeah. So if you didn't see my parenting tip,
I'll see your parenting teats anytime.
No, So check out my parenting tips on Twitter. OptiGrabber on Twitter. You'll see I have 0 tweets.
Biff, you got anything?
I do have one. So
Oh.
basically, I mean, maybe I think Joe is closer to Jacques than in terms of this, but when working for a living is hard, right? And my son is dealing with the trials and tribulations for working for a living and all that stuff.
I'm taking what they're
But-
giving.
all that good stuff, right? But anyway, the bottom line is that while it sucks to spend 40 hours of your week being miserable about your job, and it's so easy to think, I'm just gonna screw this job and quit. I think that it's fine to I think that it's okay for you to think that I want to do better for myself, but have a plan, right? Don't just no. Rage quitting is fine for video games, but not great for jobs. So yeah, so have a plan. If you think that if your current job is not giving what you think you deserve, then have a plan to get into a new situation that is maybe better, or at least not what you have now. Don't rage quit your job is what I would say is my parenting tip of the week.
All right, and I'm actually going to take that to heart, because every week I go into my job and I'm thinking, hey, you know what? But no, yes, you're right. Have a job. Have a job before you quit your current job.
Nope. It's always and everybody learns this lesson. It's so much easier to get a job when you have a job. Like,
absolutely.
Like
100%.
if this company has hired you and you
100%.
want to come to work and you level up, great. But it's like, why aren't you working? Yeah.
What have you been doing for the past 13 months?
Good times.
100% of Lego Star Wars.
There you go. Thank you. Like I said, I looked at your LinkedIn and was a little confused that it hadn't got up there yet. My parenting tip, and I've already covered this. It's like, look, we take our kids to stuff, and it's like,
burlesque
shows. Right. I mean, when I say drag show, it's like I part of me is like, oh, I got to explain it's a Tony Award. No, fuck that. It's art. Take them to see live bands. Take them to museums. Even if they give you the Dave Osborne not thrilled with the question look, because I showed Joe the picture of my son. Dude, did you not nail it with the Dave Osborne thing? Was that not?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Dave, yeah, right.
And you can see the guy's ass over him. And it's like, hey, at the same time, you can maybe tell which way they might be batting later in life because, oh, dude, you weren't looking at that woman and she was right there. You know, and look, I also throw in there that her mom, who was dressed as a disco ball right there. Maybe you don't want to check it out with mom
that's
right
a
there.
little
You know, it's a little,
disconcerting.
but dude, it was live music. It's like, get them the fuck out to like really see stuff. And we same thing. It's like, you know, the little guy came home with a flyer. Like there's a free like UMass Lowell hockey team. It's like his school has a bunch of free tickets. And I took him. Joe went last year. We went. Take him to everything that you can.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, you know, and that you know, great point, right? Like, you know, obviously, you know, you were nice enough to get us a freaking lodging for 2010 Olympics, and I dragged my son along, skipped a week of school. You know what? Yeah, the school, because, you know, I mean, the school wasn't happy about the fact that I pulled him out of school for a week. I said, yeah, you know what? I took him to the freaking Winter Olympics.
Well,
you know, you could just, you know,
how much better station would he be in life right now if he went to school that week?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, and you
how
know, now some of the other stuff that I taken him, you know, like, I don't know how much of a life lesson he learned from going to see heavy metal bands at Knotfest for 3, you know, straight days of festival metal. But you know, he got that too.
But here's the thing: like now and then, the boys perk up when somebody brings something up, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I was there." You know, it's like there was one time where like we got a call or an email from his teachers, like, "Oh, so the art teacher's like, Grayson was saying he was all these places in Italy and stuff like that. Do you want to come in and talk about that?" Like, and it's like they don't like, you know, same thing. My management, like, she grew up all over the world, and she used to talk. It's like they had 2 months vacation, and they would go to Korea for a month, and maybe Switzerland for 2 weeks and ski, and come back to, you know, to Boston where her dad was from. And she wanted to come back and spend every moment in Boston because this was where her friends were and stuff. But now she's like, I've seen this, and now I want to take them things. And so I usually don't have a serious parenting tip, but it is absolutely true. We don't give a fuck what people say. Your son and you will never, yes or no, Biff, you and your boy will never casually turn on the Winter Olympics, not see curling and say, wasn't that fucking awesome?
Definitely curling is a special one, right?
No, seriously.
Right? I mean,
we went as a joke. We honestly went as a joke, as a lark. How fucking awesome was it?
Yeah, it was incredible. And like, you know, we learned a lot, right? And I think ultimately, maybe it's kind of an indictment on the American education system where like going on vacation is better than being in school. But in the end, you know what? That was better than being in school, right?
No, like we were supposed to go to Chicago, and I was going to let the boys miss Tuesday and Wednesday, but my oldest guy, he ended up having an MRI on Tuesday night. So I'm like, well, we can't go to Chicago, but I let them miss 2 days to drive across the country to have how much one-on-one time or one-on-two time am I going to get with them? And so that's why when we got thrown that curveball, that's why I said to my 12-year-old, I'm like, you know, we're going to go. And he liked Montreal the last time we went there. And it wasn't a hard sell. It's like, it's not just, so when he goes back to school, yeah, some people went here or there. It's like, he went out of the country, you know, and we got lost in the parking garage once. We couldn't find it. And we just talked. No, we had to talk to like 5 or 6 people. And he got to see firsthand, you know, when I would say bonjour or you know, like please and thank you and stuff like that. When you say merci, and he, I'm circling this also back to one of my favorite moments going to the Olympics with you, Biff. And my son saw this firsthand now. He's 12, and he understands it more than when we were there in 2019. And your boy was 10 at the time. We're checking out of a store, and your boy says to you, it happened yesterday. In my head, it happened yesterday. Yeah. He asked you, is everybody in Canada this nice? And, and I interjected, I said, 2 things, buddy. First of all, yes, they are. Second of all, where we come from, everybody's a prick. And Biff just looks at me like, he's right. So I said, by default, they look even nicer.
I want to thank
the funny thing.
For actually, you know, because the IOC, you know, had the Olympics in Vancouver. Vancouver was forced to get their shit together.
They finally did, right?
Well, no.
And stop all the atrocities.
That cesshole it was before.
But you know what's funny about that quote is that 6 years ago, he basically asked me the same thing because I took him to Toronto in 2004. And like there was this one time where like a randomly we went to one of those places and we kind of ordered some I think it was one of those food truck kind of things. We ordered food and blah blah blah, and the guy just randomly gave my son a bonus ice cream cone with we didn't order it and he asked me the same thing, are people this nice in this country? And it's like and I had the exact same answer that you gave. It's like it's a combination of things. Yes, people are this nice in this country, but also people in US, yeah, kind of
I'm leaving Montreal. This happened. This is the last thing, and I'm turning over to you boys. I'm talking to management. I'm at a red light. I look down at the phone because she's asking, like, I'm getting the map and trying to figure out how long I'm going to take to get home. I look up and the light was green for a couple seconds. There was 3 or 4 cars behind me. Nobody leaned on their horn. Like where we live, the car behind you is watching the light in the other direction. And when they see it go from yellow to bright yellow, and as it's going to red, they're already leaning on the horn before the green light is. And it's like nobody behind. It's Saturday morning, 9:30. Like nobody felt the need.
Honestly, those other 4 cars were also checking their phones. And we're distracted. And that's why I say there's a scourge in that nation, distracted driving. It needs to be tackled immediately. Jacques, it's been a pleasure, boys, but I got to get back to the USO tour. And I got Brooke Shields. Oh, man, she's a fox. What is she, 14 or something? Oh, God. Oh, no. Something went horribly wrong. She's a little too young to be on the USO tour, to be gawked at by soldiers. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to end the podcast? Oh, Biff. Hey. Thank you.
It's all you. I am just go with the USO and the Brooke Shields and the 14-year-olds and everything else. Please.
All right. So I do want to sincerely thank our sponsors, BetterHelp.com. Where BetterHelp, if you feel like you can't afford a therapist but need to talk to somebody in another accent that has been briefly coached on how to respond to very serious mental health problems for a reasonable cost, call BetterHelp. Or I guess that's how it works. I mean, they're on every fucking podcast being sponsored. Something's wrong there. We shouldn't be streamlining this shit like fucking Walmart. It's mental health. Like WebMD is a bad thing. We shouldn't have the same thing.
And this shouldn't be funny at all, but we're still laughing.
I know what has gone wrong in this country where we have to, call a hotline for mental help instead of going to a doctor because they're too expensive. What are you gonna do? You know what? Maybe the Olympics should come here. Maybe Olympics and FIFA should come back to the U.S. and straighten us out. Make us change the error of our ways. Or show us the error of our ways, or the error of my speech, because I keep. I'm like, who was that guy that kept Norm Crosby that kept, using the malapropisms there, Anyways, what am I talking about? Oh, by the way, I did see that Norm Crosby was on that Thanksgiving Day marathon of the Dean Martin roasts on the Decades Network. Oh man, there's a bonus to having over-the-air channels. You get to see fun old celebrity roasts from the 1970s. And I've never been more excited for a disclaimer in my life, because they said right before the episode, like, this was filmed in the 1970s and there may be inappropriate cultural references. And I go, oh, baby, I hope there are. And then it's like, the Dean Martin celebrity roast of Sammy Davis Jr. And I'm just rubbing my hands like, yes. And Wilt Chamberlain is on the dais. And Milton Berle. I'm like, yes, there is a God. And it was great. Anyways, check out the celebrity roasts of on Dean Martin. I think they're on DVD or streaming somewhere.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good time to have, and it goes to show you how far we've come and how far we've yet to go in this mixed up country of ours. But you don't have to go much further to the end of the podcast, because we're here, baby. So don't forget. Consider this warning, blood from friend to friend. Closer that
everything I gave was better left behind. If it's good, I'll run away. If it's bad, I'll have to quit. Far, far better off if you just rinse and